Hello and welcome to the Aging Mastery video on falls prevention. I'm Kathleen Cameron. I'm the Senior Director of the Center for Healthy Aging and the National Falls Prevention Resource Center at the National Council on Aging. And today we're going to talk about the importance of falls prevention and tips that all of you can use to fall-proof your life. Falls are actually not a normal part of aging. That's one of the myths about falls. And today we'll talk a little bit about what some of the predictors are for falls and how we can ensure that as we get older, we reduce our falls risk as much as possible. Some of the predictors or factors that can increase the chances that a person will fall include things like declines in strength and balance, changes in our hearing and our vision. Medications are a key factor in falls risk. Also, things like our home environment, our community environment can also increase our risk. Even the chronic conditions that we have like heart disease, diabetes. People who are obese are at high risk for falls. Addressing those risk factors is really key in preventing falls. Every hour, 4 adults will die as a result of a fall, most likely because of a traumatic brain injury or a hip fracture. Falls are the leading cause of hip fractures and traumatic brain injuries. For a person who falls and has an injury, the costs are about $35,000 that is paid for by Medicare, Medicaid, but there are also personal out-of-pocket costs that older adults will have to pay as a result. Many older adults who experience a fall or a near fall often limit their activities. Some don't want to go outside of their house even, and that just exacerbates the problem in terms of continuing to have declines in balance and strength. It can lead to social isolation, depression, which further increases falls risk.
I became a pretty ardent walker from the standpoint that I did not walk, and probably within 4 or 5 months after I retired, I was averaging 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day. You're looking at a believer in falls prevention. Unfortunately for me, I'm a believer because something bad happened to me. And I had a nasty fall about 4 months ago. I am highly motivated to get back to the level of activity I had prior to my accident. I was in a habit with my spouse and relatives every year. We'd go to a national park and go hiking for a week, which I loved. I'm blessed in general to have Judy as my spouse. I think a lot of people, I had no idea the extent of the pressure I was putting upon her. I mean, I was not the fact that I was just disabled, right? But I depended upon her for almost everything. And she was just so gracious. Her lifestyle was impacted tremendously, right? She's crazy about the grandchildren. She's used to seeing the grandchildren every day. But when we came back here, the time that was available to her for that activity got diminished by some of the most basic needs that I had. So there's a lot of reasons why I'd want to continue with the physical therapy. Clearly, I want to be able to walk without limping. I want to be able to walk at great distance. I can't imagine why I wouldn't want to do. I mean, the physical therapy can be a little challenging at times, but the reward for the challenge is certainly worth it to me.
A lot of people don't recognize that actually most falls happen in or around the home. 75% of all older adult falls do happen in the home. We need to ensure that we have a safe passageway from, say, our car, from our driveway to the front door. We want to make sure that the door is easy to open. If you use a walker or if you use a wheelchair, that door needs to be wide enough to get through. A lot of people find that adding grab bars to the side of the door really helps them with balance as they enter into the home. The kitchen is a place where we spend a lot of our time. We want to make sure that the things we use every day are within easy reach. We don't want to have to climb up on a step stool or a ladder to reach things. Another thing you need to think about is the flooring in the kitchen is really important. A lot of people like to have a little rug or mat maybe in front of the sink or the stove. We don't really recommend that, but for those who insist on having them, find one that has a good rubber bottom that's going to stick to the floor really well, so it's not a tripping hazard in the kitchen. The bathroom is another area where we see a lot of falls happen among older adults, and there are many things we can do to make our bathrooms safer. One thing is make sure you have a non-slip mat in the bathtub or shower. That's going to help to reduce falls in the bathtub or in the shower, and it's a very simple, inexpensive way that you can reduce your falls risk there. Other people may need grab bars also to improve their balance in the shower, something to hold on to. Also, you might need grab bars around the toilet so that you can safely get on and off the toilet. Many older adults do need to get a raised toilet seat. In the bedroom, which is another important area we need to think about for home safety, is lighting. Ensure that there's a light right next to the bed. Also keep a phone next to the bed if you need to reach out in the middle of the night. Another great tip is to install night lights or sensor lights on the path between the bedroom and the bathroom, because many falls do take place on that pathway between the bedroom and the bathroom. By law, we're supposed to have a handrail on one side of the stairs. I recommend that there be handrails on both sides of the stairs for older adults. Another tip we like to make is, because often coming down the stairs, one step blends into the next step, you can add colored tape to the edge of each step so that you can distinguish one step from the other. I'd like to mention too, occupational therapists are wonderful healthcare professionals that can help older adults and caregivers make decisions about the types of changes that are needed in the home. How can we make sure that the home environment is just right for you? An occupational therapist or other healthcare professional can go in and do a comprehensive home safety evaluation, and they can bill Medicare for that service at no cost to the Medicare beneficiary. Let's hear from Deirdre Carolan, who talked about a home safety assessment for her own mother. And she really found the home safety assessment valuable for her mother because it provided kind of creative solutions that she hadn't thought of to provide her mother with the independence and the dignity that was so important to her mother.
I'm always aware of, both in the homes as well in patients' homes, is having that Medicare paid for assessment of home safety, but also you can go even further than that. There was a wonderful gentleman who does home safety for a living, and he came to my home before I brought my mother home. And I'd been doing geriatrics for years, and he had ideas that were just amazing to think of, both to ease the transition to my home, to promote her safety there, as well as to small devices that would help promote her function in the house. And some of them were real simple examples. He had a tension rod that we put by her bed that went floor to ceiling, so that if I'm trying to get her dressed and she can't stand alone, we don't have to do the back and forth in the bed. She could stand up and hold on to that bar while we pulled up her trousers. So it preserved her dignity more. It was less stressful on my back, as well as our caregivers' backs, and it was probably safer for my mom.
Medications are one of the key risk factors or predictors for falls. And what medications should we think about in terms of falls risk? And those include medications that are being used to treat pain, depression, anxiety, any medication that acts on our brain in any way, we need to be aware of. Even pain medication. So it's really, really critical that you have someone review all the medications that you're taking, because there may be medications that are interacting with each other that are creating some of the side effects that I just talked about, like sleepiness during the day or drowsiness, or maybe your blood pressure is too low. Balance is one of the key risk factors for falls, and as we get older, our balance does decline due to changes in our muscle strength. I think the first way, if you're identified as someone with balance issues, is to meet with a physical therapist. Another way that you can improve your balance is through community-based programs. Across the country right now, there are a number of really excellent programs that have been shown to reduce falls or improve some of the changes that happen with aging associated with balance and strength. Let's hear from Beverly Canizero, who teaches a program called SAIL, which stands for Staying Active and Independent for Life.
My name is Beverly Canizero, and I am fortunate to be able to be the leader of a class called SAIL, which means Stay Active and Independent for Life, which is a falls prevention program for people 55 plus. It's a program where you have 55 minutes and you do cardio, you do weights, you do balance, and you have a stretch portion at the end. And I think it's just a terrific program. I had a maternal grandmother and my mother both suffer falls and broken hips. And it was a life-changing experience for both of them, and certainly not for the better. You know, that was really, my grandmother died shortly after that happened, and my mother lingered for 6 years, but they were 6 bad years, I would say. So it really woke me up about the danger of falling.
Now let's look at this video, which summarizes many of the points that I made during our conversation today.
Hey, be careful. You might think you're never going to fall, but we all know someone who has, don't we? Next time, it could be you. The good news is most falls are preventable. Start with 6 easy steps. First, find a balance or exercise program to help you build stability, strength, and flexibility. Make it fun and go with a friend. Don't be afraid to tell your doctor if you've had a fall or are afraid of falling. Ask her to assess your risk of falling. Discuss medications with your pharmacist or doctor. They'll know what prescriptions and over-the-counter medications can increase your risk of falling. Make sure you get your vision and hearing checked every year, because your eyes and ears are key to keeping you on your feet. Keep your home safe. For example, remove any items you might trip over. Make sure your home is well lit. Use bath mats in your shower and install grab bars in the bathroom. And finally, remember, it's important to talk to your family. Ask for their support in taking these simple steps to stay safe. Falls are not a normal part of aging, but every 13 seconds, an older adult visits an emergency room for a fall-related injury. Luckily, you can take steps to reduce your risk. Visit NCOA.org/falls prevention to learn more.
Thank you again for joining us today, and we hope this video has been helpful in identifying specific strategies that you can use in your own life to help prevent falls and to maintain your independence and to stay as active as possible as you continue your journey with aging.